You could also run samples through the contact sensor, setting it up in the software to run as a point-to-point contact profiler if you choose, as a separate, entirely separate sensor. When preparing a sample to run that way, there's really two methods that you could use. One would be if the sample is long enough to tape into a tube, and let's say this was your starting point and your end point was back here, you could load a tube into the system such that your starting point was just downstream of the contact sensor, and you could run it point to point. The sensor would go down, take the first point, you set the spacing and the speed, how far you want it to advance, take the second point, third, all the way around until your sample has moved back to the starting point again. A second method, should you choose to run in a strip format rather than taping it together in a tube, I prepared one by just cutting the tube that I demonstrated. Let's say that this is the beginning part of your sample. We'd recommend that you tape a liter from the beginning of the sample of film or paper that is at least long enough to run underneath the drive so that you can pull your sample through the contact probe. So in this example, we would load our sample so that the starting point of what we actually want to measure is just downstream of the contact probe. Feed it through the system as per normal, lower the drive, and then start the test. Again, the contact sensor will take its first point, takes about 1 second. We do have a built-in dwell time if you have soft materials and you want the sensor to rest on the film before taking the reading for a certain number of seconds. Contact head lifts up, film advances to the next spot, contact sensor takes a reading, advances, takes a reading, advances, takes a reading, all the way to the end of the sample, and you would, when it reaches the last point, you would likely just stop the drive. There is a cutoff function too that once your film thickness drops below a certain value, it would not recognize the data if the film happens to run all the way out from underneath the contact probe.